Good afternoon, everybody. My name's Mike Edwards. I run a website called DIY Doctor. It comes in the .co.uk and the .org.uk versions. And it has 22,000 pages of free information and advice on everything DIY. We get 120,000 people every single week clicking into the website, and most of them are in some sort of trouble or another with the job they're trying to do. But we exist to help them. It's as simple as that. The site is run by 18 tradesmen, and we have spent many, many years in the building trades, so we know houses pretty well, and we're able to help you on every single level. We've had far too many questions to be able to answer individually now, so we've opened a forum. Our forum receives 40-odd thousand people a week. So please go into our forum with any question you've got, and you'll be answered within a couple of hours from either somebody on our staff or a tradesman that clicks in to have a look at the questions you ask. So in the course of all those events and all of those years, we've been up in 10 years now, and we're very proud of that. So we've helped a number of people, but there still remain a number of people for whom help is just an impossible concept. They know how to do it. They have no need of anybody other than presumably their mother-in-law and the cat, and they'll attempt jobs that even I wouldn't go for. The results of that are quite staggering. First thing I have to tell you is on a safety note. It is now and has been for quite some time illegal for you to be messing about with electricity in your house on certain levels. You're not allowed to touch anything electrical in the bathroom. You're not allowed to touch anything electrical in the kitchen. And if you want to put a new circuit in, you need to get a Part P registered electrician. You can change a socket if there's one existing, and you can change a light fitting if there's one existing. But there's a lot of things you cannot do. If you want to know exactly what they are, then they're in our book. Our book's on sale around the corner. It's £5 for the show, 10 quid normally. And it doesn't just tell you how to do jobs, it tells you why you're doing them. It shows you the principles of building, that you can actually work out when something's gone wrong, you can actually work out fairly quickly why it's gone wrong, because you know how it works. So we've put the emphasis on that, not just how do I put a shelf up, why am I putting it up in this way? What do these screws do? What do these wall plugs do? How does that work? What's the interaction between these bits and pieces? So it's a bit of a unique book, and it's yours for only a £5. If you want me to sign it, I'm quite happy to do so. But please pay particular attention to Part P of the building regulations, which cover electrical work. In the book, it lists every job that you're allowed to do and every job you're not. So there's no crossover. Please remember, if you break any of those rules, there is no such thing as an expert DIYer. An expert DIYer is a builder, simple as that. We are governed by exactly the same rules and regulations as you are in your own home, because it might not always be your own home. So building regulations exist to protect people that go in there. By law, you have a duty of care to protect everybody who enters your home. So if you invite the postman in for a cup of tea, and your homemade door falls on his head and you kill him, you're liable for that. That's a bit scary, isn't it? So we have a duty of care under the building regulations. Good idea to know what they're about and to find out about them before you start embarking on big DIY jobs. But they're all possible. We'll show you how to do it. We actually, you'll see some of the stats. I won't go into that too much, but please be aware of those regulations. We asked in 2006 10,000 of our users, 10,000 of our website users, why they did DIY. What did they get out of DIY? What's the draw? What's the attraction? So these are the reasons that they gave. 38% of them, the majority, quite obviously wanted to save money. 22%, of that 22%, about 21% were first-time buyers. They just wanted to see if they could, and that's great. 9% of them couldn't find a builder, so they thought, oh, sod it, I'll have a go. So they did. 6% of them had a go at doing a job they'd never done before as a protection from the shoddiness they'd heard about coming from cowboy builders. Funny but understandable at the same time. How can I protect about shoddiness? I will build this house myself. 25% of them, the remaining 25, were a mixture of the above. Okay? So we can assume from those figures that 6% plus some of the 25% believe that they can do a better job than the builders. And I'm absolutely positive that in some of those cases they can, and they did. However, 1.2 million questions to DIY Doctor say that perhaps the majority of them can't. And that simply is borne out by the accident figures that come from a society called the Royal Society for the Prevention of Accidents. They're quite scary. ROSPA are 5 or 6 years behind everybody with statistics, so the latest stats were from 2002. 2005 there was no improvement at all, so we've used the same stats. 87,000 people. This isn't funny. Why are you laughing? Or perhaps it's just me. 87,000 people go to hospital every year using machinery and tools while DIYing. That's not including the bangs on the hand with a hammer and fingers indoors and that sort of. This is simpler people that go into hospital. 40,000 of those are step-ladder incidents and ladder incidents and standing on tins of paint to reach the ceiling or whatever it is. 20,000 people knifed themselves. 15,000 people sawed themselves. 6,500 ground themselves in some way or another. 6,000 hammered themselves. 4,000 chiseled themselves. 3,500 screwed themselves. 3,000 drilled themselves. And 2,000 axed themselves into hospital. The materials that they were using caused quite a bit of accident ratio as well. Wood, 30,000. You can read through that and then, I'm not going to go through all those. But there's one at the end that it's about 1,800 to 2,000 people a year go into hospital because of one additional material. If anybody wants to read that and put their hand up and have a guess at what that material is, I would be pleased to find out. Anybody hazard a guess? Water? Oh, that's a good answer, but it's not actually that. So 1,800 people, on top of all these people, end up in hospital every year because of wallpaper. I don't know how they do that. It's one severe paper cut, isn't it, that puts you in hospital. But that's what happens. So if you want to learn how to wallpaper properly, buy the book. It's all in there. Okay, I've said this already. There's no such thing as an expert DIYer. An expert DIYer is a builder. You can be very, very good at DIY, but the builder takes it that one step further. An expert DIYer will know all the building regulations, will know what they're supposed to do, what they can do, what they're capable of, and where the laws where the laws integrate between building and in any form of construction. So you're doing building work. You're governed by the same rules we are. Regardless of what you're doing in your home, you're governed by the same rules. So it's a good idea to know how your house works. And once again, that's what that book's about. How does my house work? These are absolutely genuine emails to DIY Doctor. We have changed the font so that it's all in the same font. We've blanked out the names. And we've put them in an email form that we can present to you. But these are genuine emails to DIY Doctor since the year 2000. I watched your programme on the telly and you plastering over Artex on the ceiling. I did it, but you didn't say it went hard quick, and my trowel is stuck in the lumps on the ceiling. It was a surprise, now it's expensive, I think. Please help. A lot of these things, I'd love to find out from somebody, some professor somewhere, what the time lag is in between something being a disaster. How long do you have to wait before it's funny? I think we've all been in situations where at the time your heart stops, and then 3 minutes later it's funny, or 3 years later, So this guy has watched, quite obviously. We answer a lot of these people, by the way, to find out what happened, how this email came into existence. At DIY SOS, the DIY programs, they show somebody walking into a room, they've got a bag of plaster and a trowel, they shut the door behind them, 5 minutes later on the television they walk out again and everything's wonderful, So Mrs. Brown thinks she can go into a lounge, plaster the ceiling and everything's going to be wonderful, and the trowel's stuck to the ceiling. And it is actually quite a common thing that happens. Dear DIY Doctor, I need to drill a hole for my son's leg. What do I use to get it straight? So we had to find out about this. We didn't dare answer this one at all. And what had happened is, bless her, her son had broken his leg, and he was halfway through his mock GCSEs, and his study in his bedroom, he had one of those computer desks, and because his leg was in a cast, he couldn't get close enough to the keyboard. So she wanted to drill a hole in the side of her computer desk to stick his leg through so he could carry on typing. That's initiative. We love that. That's brilliant. Dear DIY Doctor, I didn't expect concrete to smell like this when I broke it up, like it says on your website. You didn't say anything about the smell. It's like poo. Mr. Very Unhappy. We've got a section on the website that starts off with how to install a driveway in your home and what to do if you come across big lumps of concrete in the ground, as there often are after a build or whatever. And we show you how to break that up using special tools for doing it. He came across a lump of concrete in his drive, which he didn't realise was the surround to a sewer pipe. So he broke it out, and it smelt like poo, largely because it was poo. Dear DIY Doctor, do you have a wood plan for an indoor rabbit hutch? I don't want him to get in my cupboard anymore. I thought that was so lovely, it had to go in. And we emailed back and said, we've got a plan for an outdoor rabbit hutch. Perhaps when you built it, you could move it indoors and nobody would know. I mended a hole in my ceiling and I tried to plaster it, but I kept getting an electric shock. My wife says I'm like a bumper car. Now, this one struck me as particularly funny because I've actually done it. In all seriousness, I took, in my case, and I'm sure it was the same in this guy's case, somebody felt, yet another person went through a loft floor with a foot dangling out of the ceiling, and it required a patch to go in the ceiling. Put the patch in and then you plaster over the patch. It's not rocket science, quite the staple diet for builders and plasterers. But in my instance, as I was putting the patch of plasterboard in the ceiling, I tacked one of the nails in and it just nicked an electrical cable in the ceiling, a light cable, and of course that nail became live. Plaster's very wet, and as I applied the plaster to the ceiling, the trowel was electrified, and it was a judder hit, and unfortunately not a big shock. So it is one of those situations where, because I didn't check for pipes and cables, very, very remiss of me. We should all have a pipe and cable detector in our home, even for putting pictures up on the wall. But because I didn't check, I got an electric shock, and that's obviously what happened to him. So indeed, you are like a bumper car going across the ceiling. Where is the floor area? It's in your site, but I can't find it. This requires a little bit of an explanation. On the website, we do have a page called Measuring the Floor Area, for people who want to buy carpet or to put wooden floors down or whatever they want to do, how to measure the floor area. And the page starts something like, first measure your floor area. And this is what we got back. Well, where is the floor area? It's on your site, but I can't find it. So we emailed back and we said, look down.